we reach a very special part of this webinar, which is a hands-on practice. We think that the best way to learn about something is to actually put your hands on it. So this is what we will do now. We have a practical experience on how to elaborate EPDs. So we will learn how to use tools and so on. So I think, Elizabeth, you're still sharing your screen. Maybe.
Yeah, you're still sharing your screen. Perfect. So, okay.
Yeah. So I will explain just a couple of things that we need to consider first. We will have first a presentation from Geir Lange from Norway. He will explain first what is an EPD, the tools that we have, and so. And then we will do the exercise. For that, the participants can log in on an online tool that we have prepared. And this will be guided by Ole Iversen. So he will be doing on the screen all the steps, but since we have created more than 200 different profiles in this app, and so everybody can join with a different profile, with a different user, okay? But all of them at the same time, so that can be a bit chaotic if there are a lot of questions. And so this is why first of all, we have, for these logistic reasons, we have to only create tools for people registering by Monday, but last Monday. So if you have registered after that, you won't have access now, but still you can see on the screen how to solve the exercise. The other thing is that if you have any technical problem or any question, or you get lost in one of the steps, don't worry. With the invitation, with the links for this webinar, you should have received attached a PDF with all the instructions for this exercise, and all the how to solve the exercise step by step. So exactly the same that Ula will do on the screen is on this document. And also for the participants, the tool will be open until Friday. So even if you get lost, if you need more time, if you want to try again or to play a bit with the tool, changing the inputs and seeing the results, you still can do it until Friday. I think that's all. So I will present now the speakers. We have first, we will have Geir Lange. He's been the chairman of the Norwegian Asphalt Contractor Association, EBA, for 8 years and represents EBA in different IAPA committees. He started his career with aviation administration as the client with responsibility on runway pavement construction in Norway. Since 2010, he has worked in Veidekke, the largest asphalt contractor in Norway, and has been involved in the development of the PCR and the product category rules and the LCA tool currently used in Norway. As I said, after this presentation, we will have Ole Iversen, who is the CTO of LCA.no. He has background from biology to industrial ecology, but he is here today because he has worked with online tools for the EPDs and LCA for 5 years, and specifically with the Asphalt EPDs since 2016, when they started the project with EBA and Veidekke. So I will allow now Geir to share his own screen. Geir, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hello, yes, we can. Yeah, we see your screen. Perfect. Maybe you can, yes. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you all.
Can you open your camera maybe so we can see you? It's better for the audience. And there we go. Perfect. Geir, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for the collaboration, and the floor is yours. I would say that please keep it short to leave some space for the webinar, for the workshop as well. Thank you very much.
Well, just thanks all for attending. And our goal, all the industry and all the stakeholders, is the 55% reduction in 9 years. We have to reach that target. the environment and earnings go hand in hand, many say, but unfortunately for us as the contractors, it's not the same year, so we have to invest and do some action at our asphalt plant or machinery or whatever to try to reduce and meet these goals. We also need some common rules, as this has been said several times today, so I will skip that and hopefully try to outline what we're talking about. In Norway, we have developed this tool, so each contractor can produce an EPD on each asphalt plant they have. There's a lot of things we actually can do. The values you see here in different part of asphalt production is an average in Norway, around 51 kilo CO2 per ton asphalt. What we can do is transportation of material in A2. We can reduce that by using other trucks or train or ships or whatever from the chimney in the asphalt plant. The average is about 20 kilo CO2, and there we can do a lot of different actions to reduce the emissions, and that's actually up to each contractor and each asphalt plant to choose which burning fuel you are using. And also for the raw materials, you have around 20 kilos as an average. And how can you reduce the emission from raw material? That's mainly bitumen, and then you aggregate and some additives. Different action can be taken, and we have used the tool to calculate some average value in Norway, but recycling is mentioned. Dry aggregate has an effect. Biomass in the burning media has a great effect on. So there's a lot of tool we can use for reducing the emission. And then, as mentioned, we need a set of criteria. And in Norway, we have, based on the EPA document that was mentioned, guidelines for EPD or PCR, which was finalized in 2016, I believe. We developed the PCR in Norway. The EPD Foundation in Norway is a third party, and they in Norway they have decided to have a part A for construction products, which cover all the general requirement in the 15804, and then we have produced a PCR for asphalt pavement, for aggregate, and all the other materials that is used in the civil engineering works. This was approved by in 2017, and since then we have used this tool, all the contractors in Norway, and the tool was developed in with LCA.no, as Ole represents, and that was from the Asphalt University College in Norway, southern Norway. These are the it's based on the thing that has been discussed earlier, that the producer of asphalt cannot enter any CO2 values for different materials. So they have developed this tool. It's a web-based tool. There's the similar tool is used for concrete prefab products, for furniture, and maybe Ole can tell a lot about that. But also, as discussed, the system covers all the different modules in the EPD. But as mentioned earlier, we as an asphalt producer, we can concentrate on A1 to A3. In Norway, most of the asphalt contractors also do the transport and assembly. So So we cover the A1 to A5, but when we come to the use phase, it's actually the clients that has to choose how they will maintain their road. And also the same with the C module. Will it be a new binder course, just a new overlay of the existing top layer, or what will happen with the old road? The only thing we can say is that the asphalt we use as of today, that's 100% recyclable, and we can reuse it in the next layer. So actually, as mentioned, it was very good to hear a lot of people actually talking about who's the responsibility for entering data. So it's possible to enter all the data, but we, as a contractor, need the input from the client. And just to show how this works, all we have to do as an asphalt producer, contractor, we enter the kilo or liter for the mix we actually produce. We can't enter any CO2 value for bitumen or aggregate or whatever. That's collected from the system. So there is a dense wall here from the contractor and onto the actual value and calculation that's been done. Try to describe it a little bit more. Hopefully you all are going to use this, try this tool now. And as a contractor or as a user, we work in this area. We choose our asphalt mix. We enter the kilo and kilowatt for electricity, or liters or whatever for burning oils. And we input just a number and choose material, which is taken from the database. The administration is from LCA.no. They collect the CO2 emission factors from Eurobitume, from EcoInvent, from EPD Foundation in different countries, which is actually available online. And I totally agree that if you start using different databases and different numbers, that can create a mess. But that's not up to the contractor and user of this tool. We just choose the material which is coming available from different databases. Oops. And also we have the client. We send out the calculation done in the tool out to the EPD, and hopefully by the end of this workshop you are going to print out an EPD, something like this with a few pages. A lot of things is mentioned before, but actually when we use the project specific EPD, it's actually one plant. We use the burning oil average what we did last year, and that's the rule in Norway. That's the only thing we know is what we did last year and not what we are going to do next summer or autumn. So we use a different burning oils energy mix. Is it an aggregate or sorry power plant use, or is it connected to the net? That's one thing. The amount of reclaimed asphalt, warm mix asphalt on a lot of asphalt plant, but not on all, I believe. Also the distance where you pick up the material, the bitumen and the aggregate and everything. So of course additives you have to enter. So now we have prepared an EPD with LPG mix, some energy. We skipped these factors in the workshop. We are lacking one additives that you have to add in the system, and hopefully this is going to work quite well. So, but the goal is we enter just kilo and volume of this for each mix. Green procurement has been spoken of. EBA, the Contractor Association, we financed and developed this tool with LCA.no. EBA is the owner of the tool. We also suggested different criteria for using this as public procurement a few years ago. And no, I just entered the meat contracts, as was mentioned by Rob in the Netherlands, because that was introduced in Norway briefly in 1 or 2 contracts in 2018. 4 contracts, I believe, in 2019, and this year it was like 8 or 9 contracts for asphalt contracts, and hopefully next year we can use the system a lot more. Also, the public administration, both aviation and defense, and the road and cities are asking for EPD for the product we are using in contracts. So that's a very good thing to do, to start to collect data for how much is our emission today and how much do we have to reduce it. So now over to the workshop, just short. We have hopefully a lot of you have is able to enter here. So I will hand over the floor to Ole just in a minute. We have designed an asphalt mix that we hope you don't use on the road. But anyway, and there's some material, and we have the distance for where the material come from. We also have the asphalt plant, which are using some electricity, and water is a requirement in the 15804 to include. Also non-hazardous waste disposal. So in Norway we use that as a standard, all the contractors. But anyway, we have light fuel oil, we have LPG, electricity, so you maybe can change this and see the effect in the tool. You should have received a link, you should have received a password, and if you are able to come into the welcoming tool, hopefully by the end we can produce this EPD. And it will look like this if you are going to the right website and log in. So Ole, will you take over to guide us through the system?
Yes. So thank you, Geir. Thank you for the presentation, and to everyone else as well. So I hope you can hear me and see me.
Yes, we can. And now you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, perfect. Then I will try to share the screen here for the login. So my suggestion is that I will go through the exercise that Breisho and Geir prepared and show it now so everyone can see. And you can choose to either do it at the same time or do it afterwards and just watch now how we would usually do it. So the exercise itself was sent by to the presenters, no, to the participants in a PDF. So Breisho made quite a detailed user guide, a very good one with all the steps. And then when you log into the tool, you will then come to this page. If anyone has any login issues, you could try to write to support@LCA.no and my colleague will be able to sort it out. But for this purpose, everyone has the same password. So it's EPD Asphalt, and then it's your registration email that is the login information. And you log in then from the tool here. I can also share this in the chat. So I'm not sure if it reached everyone, but maybe Breisho can share it also. So when you log into the tool, this is we set up a tool now that is a demo version of the one that is used by the Norwegian contractors, and also in Denmark they have started to use the same tool. So it's built on a web-based platform, and then you log in with your username and password. And then we set up now, for the purpose of this exercise, I created around 200 companies, demo companies, and I connected each participant to their own company. And as a user, you won't be able to change the company information. This is part of the system. So this is information that we set up that can be automatically added to the EPD. And then when you work with the EPDs, you have the actual EPD generator here. And if you make more than one registration, they will appear here in the dashboard. So you can also click them directly to work with it. So everyone should have one EPD available in the tool. And when you then move to the EPD generator here, you will have a table showing all EPDs in work. And the system is built up so that you have a selection of unverified EPDs. This is everything you're working with. But when you have completed the EPD, it's possible to send it to a verifier and then also publish it to EPD-Norway from the tool. So that's how it's set up now. I will show this a bit more towards the end. But for the actual exercise, it should be a test EPD here available. It was created by Geir and Brasho. And if you just left click on this EPD, you should then come to the actual EPD. Let's see now if I can choose to share my instructions. So then for instructions that were made by are you still seeing the PDF here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Then, so the instructions that were made by Geir and Brasho, they say what we are supposed to add in the exercise. So we are adding missing materials and some transportation and energy. And of course, after trying this, feel free to try any other combination in the tool. So this is the exercise we're following. And in the PDF as well, you have a quite detailed step-by-step guide that Brasho made after testing the tool just for a short while. So I was really pleased to see that he was able to figure it out so quickly and make this very elaborate guide to use. And if I then go back to the tool, we will then have the EPD here. So when you then click on the EPD, you will come to a part that we call the EPD header. This is where you add all the text and the data that will be used in the EPD. Some things are defined by the EPD template that you choose, which is usually given by a language, but it can also be some things defined in the template. It's a possibility to change the pictures if you're interested. We added the webinar logo as a front page and also a flowchart for Asphalt. But the main step now that we are doing is that we are going to look at the modules. So you see here that the tool it's designed after the modules in the 15 804 standard. So you kind of work with one module at a time. And by default, we only declare A1 to A3. But we have also added A4 and A5 today. And it's technically possible to add B1. So you can choose to then change it from module not declared to not relevant. But if we then include it, we also need data. So let's just leave that open for question. I think both, as mentioned by Rob and David in the previous presentations, that what do we add after the factory gate or even after the asphalt is installed at site. So here we might need to guess, and we might need help from everyone else to decide good scenarios. But it's technically possible to include all the modules. And then if you change the structure here, if you add any more modules, it will directly affect the print of the PDF and also the EPD data. So if I now go to the EPD data, where you enter the values from A1 to A5, you will see here that the use stage is added as well. So it just follows the declared modules, the ones marked in blue, which are under the EPD header. And then if I click on the A1 raw materials, you will have a part of the asphalt recipe already made. And it's then possible to add the missing data here. So we are looking at the declared unit of 1 ton or 1,000 kilograms of asphalt. And here it says the sum is 990. So we're lacking a bit to reach the full ton. So then I'm going to right click here and click on new. And then I will choose here in the type, I will choose a material list. So I'll go to the database. And then we have a selection of processes here. And this is also searchable, so you can add data. And then you could add the quantity. So we are lacking 10 kilograms of cellulose fibers. And then you could also add a comment here for internal use. So this is mainly for yourself and your colleagues to remember what you have done when you're working with each asphalt recipe. And I could also mention here again, as Geir said, that the users cannot modify the background data here, the emission factors, but they work with specific input data for all the relevant stages as asphalt producers. And the database is mainly pre-calculated values, so it's not a full LCA database as used in LCA software. So the amount of data points is also then less. So it's only predefined data following the indicators of EN 15804, which also then makes it possible to implement EPDs as the material input. So in the future, the easiest way for us to make a tool would be if we had EPDs for all the input data. Then it would be then we would solve the data gap, which is always present. So when we started out with the tool in 2016, we didn't have any EPDs for aggregates, but now there's been created several, both in Norway and Sweden, that we can add to the system. And now if I go to the A2 here, I see that each raw material is connected to a specific transport. And then the quantity here is actually then kilometers. So we only add kilometers one way, so from A to B. As written here by Geir, you add from quarry to plant or from supplier to plant. And then the cellulose fibers are lacking transport. So I will then right click and add a new process here as well. And then you will choose the reference. So you only have what you actually added in A1 available. And when I then choose the cellulose fibers, I need to choose a type of transport. And then I will choose to use a truck here, lorry, Euro 5. Not entirely sure it was exactly that truck that they should put in the exercise, but then I'll guess I'll get a lower grade towards the end. And then in the A3 production, it's possible to add energy. And
just one question related to the materials, because we just received a question. Maybe you can answer now before we just change. The question says the database contains different aggregate fractions. Is there also a different in-unit impact for different aggregate fractions?
Yeah, it depends a bit. So the EPDs we have implemented, some separate that they have a specific impact per fraction, and other EPDs they declare the number of fractions that leave, let's say, one stage of the crushing. So even though they are in different fractions, they have been through the same processing and have the same profile. So it's a mixture sometimes. It depends a bit on how it's written in the EPD that we implement.
And also, in any case, if there is a different material that is already not included in the data set, or because now you just selected you just scroll down on the menu and you just picked one. If a manufacturer, for example, needs to add a different one, or the impact is not the same, a different type of aggregate, something, what they should do for that?
Yeah, so usually when we set up the tool, we had a selection of generic data in lack of producer-specific data. So we used the average data set for aggregates, and also for bitumen, we used the Eurobitume data set as the industry average. But usually as time goes on, the need for data increases, so we have added more data sets, and usually the users contact us and ask if it's possible to enter more data sets, or we also do it through the Contractors Association. And data can be added, publicly available EPDs can be added directly, or any document that contains EPD indicators. And also if a supplier is able to calculate values according to the EN 15804 standard, it's possible to implement that. This can be done by companies themselves or from consultants that help them to calculate the values with other tools.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just carry on then. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question. So at least the approach we used in Norway, because we've been using the same tool also for the concrete industry. And when they started, we had one data set for cement, European average, and then now I think it's 20 or 30 cement EPDs that are available in the tool. So when we start out, we try to use the best available data, because it's quite impossible to find supplier-specific data for all users and everything at the same time. So I think it just needs to be a process and continuous improvement. So the list of the available data is then based on what we have implemented in the database, and it can be specific to a group of users or a whole industry or one company. And usually the companies work in the same space. So when, for example, Geir logs in for Veidekke, he works in the same platform with all his colleagues to create the EPDs. And then also when we come to the production stage here, we can also see here that we have already included some data sets. So this will be added per asphalt plant. So usually the average of the previous year. And then it's possible to then delete, edit, or also add new processes. So we will now add the light fuel oil here, which we will add in 2 liters. And then here is also possible to add any comments. And then you see here the comments that you add, they are never visible on the document, so they are never sent to the receiver of the EPD. They are mainly for internal use, but in the EPD heading part, there are text fields that the Asphalt Contractor would always fill out. So especially product description, technical data, this is information that the contractor knows quite well themselves, so they will always fill it out, while some other texts are more automated in the system based on how the system is set up and how it was verified. And for the next step, I will then add A4 transport. So here we don't have any data available. So you see there's a counter here saying how many processes are in each step. And there's nothing here, but we will then right-click and we will add a transport to the markets. And the A4 is quite interesting because now we are moving beyond the factory gate. So here we are subject to what are we supposed to put here. So in the old EPDs in Norway that were especially created around 2013 until now, everyone used 50 kilometers just to have an average. And this was the published EPD that was sent out. But a very common use of this tool in Norway for both asphalt and concrete is to make copies of the EPD, which is quite easy to do. I can show that later. And then just change, for instance, A4 to be project specific for the one that is requesting the information here, requesting an EPD, typically carbon footprint of asphalt recipe. And I really also liked what Rob was saying earlier, that we shouldn't ask for anything more than what the client actually can answer. And with a tool like this, you could also add A4 as additional information project specifically.
I have another question, maybe for you or for Geir as well. We have a question here: is if we are producing a new war mix to reduce the fuel consumption, for example, and we are doing it now, how we can take into account this reduction, because the average usage of last year is not representative at all. How we can change that?
Yeah, so our approach to it, at least when we interpreted the standard, is that it should be the average of a full year, usually the previous year. But it also says that deviations can be justified. So when anyone is starting a new asphalt plant and they don't have a full year data, in order for them not to wait an entire year to actually make an EPD or even longer, it's possible to use the average of maybe 3 months, but this needs to be written in the EPD and be specified so that the reader knows that this approach is taken. That's at least how we have approached it generally in EPDs in Norway, also for other products.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Richard? Yeah, just as a question for Ole. Well, just was wondering whether the data you have now, they are database and data sets, are they completely based on Norway, or is there any effort done to do some European-wide harmonization?
So I would actually guess that quite many of the data sets are already European averages in lack of national data sets. So such as the aggregates now are Norwegian based, and also we had some of the energy data that was developed is more specified for Norway, but like the bitumen data set is from Eurobitumen, so that would be applicable for all countries.
Mm-hmm.
So it shouldn't be too difficult to make national adjustments, and also possible to implement if there are any national databases that have relevant data.
Okay, thank you.
Geir, do you want to add anything?
No, just short. When you have an EPD published in EPD Foundation in either country or a lot of country in Europe, they are also valid in other countries. So I know at least Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, a couple of other countries, a Norwegian EPD can be used in those countries. And also, Ole, you collect data from Europe when you like EPD in Norway for a product. So yes, we try to harmonize and use the EPD for a product. So a manufacturer of additive in Germany or Spain or Finland can produce their EPD, and then we can use that value in the tool and have to add the transportation from Finland or Portugal to Norway where we use it. So yes, hopefully we'll hopefully can the producer or the supplier of additive will only have to produce one EPD, and we can use that nationwide in Europe.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess from what I see is that the system you use, it's able, with a further work, to be considered for an harmonization at European-wide level. I understand that the certification allows to use in other countries, but does the certification check the quality of data? Where do they come from?
Yeah, so when the tool is set up, it is verified by a third party that will always go through the data and evaluate it. So that's part of the tool verification, and which is quite similar to a normal EPD verification by a third party. But since it's one database that is shared by all the contractors, and we don't change it very often, the verification can be done for the database and the system. And this approach we also done to avoid that, let's say if multiple asphalt contractors would have each their own consultant and everyone used almost the same data, and they would require a third-party verifier each time to evaluate the same data. We quite early saw this as not the most efficient way to work in order to achieve higher quality. So quite early on in the Norwegian, also in the concrete industry and in asphalt industry, we have had competitors using the same tool with mainly the same data, also to avoid methodological differences.
Okay, well, just one thing to add, that is more or less what I replied earlier on. And we also have the colleagues of NAPA that are connected. And what they're doing is that they're trying to harmonize now for the whole country. So this is an exercise that maybe can be done in the future, possibly with the support of the European Association. But it's great to have something already that can be used.
Absolutely, yes. Before we continue,
maybe you want to go for it.
I just have to comment because we are receiving more questions. So there is a question here. There is now that we are global and we are out of Europe, we have participants from out of Europe. There is a question: what does Euro 4 or Euro 6 mean? And this is related to a European regulation which fixes the limit of emissions for vehicles. So we have different. It was Euro 1, Euro 2. They came in different years. So if you have a truck or a vehicle that is Euro 4, for example, you know where was the limit in that year. So you know the more or less the emissions of that vehicle. So it's just that. Then we also have another question. Can you declare a reference service life in the tool? The reference service life is always a very controversial topic, and for that in particular, the Norwegian PCR already gives you a lot of guidance in this regard, isn't it? Maybe Geir can explain, or Ole, of course.
Yeah, we have in the PCR we have included a reference life for road administration, highway nets or road network. Which is published, and we have taken those data for depending on the annual day traffic. So above 20,000 vehicles a day, it's 4 or 5 years normal service life, and for 3,000 annual daily traffic, it's 10 or 11 years. So we use that scope or scenario in if we have to calculate the service life. But anyway, as we said, it's depending on how the traffic develop in the next 5 or 15 years, and it's depending on a lot of things, the maintenance and winter maintenance and a lot of things. So actually, yeah, we can set the normal criteria. And on the other hand, when we have a design, build, and operate contract, as a contractor, we can use the whole scope, whole scheme. So if we have the responsibility for a road for 20 years, then we actually have to use this scope B and C. So so it's possible, but to declare a service life today, that's hard for a contractor. So but you may have it in the B phase.
Yeah, there are certain things that manufacturers need to add or to include in the EPD sometimes, and they're very difficult to calculate if they have to just calculate them as they are. So some PCRs, what they're doing, for example, in Norwegian, is that they give you a pragmatic approach that already help you a lot to get this number if you don't have anything better. So that's good. On the other hand, of course, it's more difficult to establish if you are, for example, improving your product in a certain way that improves the durability, how you actually introduce that there. You know, if at the end we all put the same number, why are we even declaring that module itself? So we always have to find a balance into feasible things to do to ask for the manufacturer, and then also things that are representative.
Worship, can I add something on that?
Of course.
Because this has been, discussed very, profoundly in Pavement LCM. And as I tried to explain before in the presentation, if you go to A1, A2, A3, it is our suggestion that reference service life shouldn't even exist, because we are talking about a material.
Yes,
correct.
If you go to A1 to A5, so you include also A4 and A5 now, so you are creating an infrastructure component by 3D printing it with a material which is the asphalt mixture. Or you are using a prefabricated module and you are installing it in a pavement. I'm thinking about future pavement that can be done modular. If you are building the infrastructure components, so the A4, A5, then in that point, the reference service life needs to be introduced somehow, and study will need to be done on durability. But the A1, A3, reference service life, or in other words, durability of a material, it doesn't really make sense to us. No. Material has the mechanical properties that will allow to have higher durability of the infrastructure component, but the material itself shouldn't have a reference service life.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, just agree.
Yes, me too. Of course.
Me too.
So
Yeah,
we're having great discussions here, but maybe we can let to finish the exercise. We're close to the end. I would like to at least to show the participants how to print the PDF, the EPD, and see the summary of the EPD and everything. So please, if you can carry on. Yeah,
I can do the last part, and then we can actually go back to the discussion there, because then I think it quite nicely stops when what's the next step. So let's see. Then I'll go back.
We have 10 minutes left, so if you can, just make sure that we reach the end because it's interesting to see the summary of impacts and everything.
So actually now do you see my screen again now?
Yep.
Perfect. So then after adding the A4, we come to the A5 installation. So I won't add anything here now. It's already been added by Geir and Brasho, but it's possible here to add energy use and vehicles that are used in the installation phase. And for Norway, we also made some predefined scenarios here, so that the contractors, they choose an installation scenario with a package of certain vehicles that include the energy use, and they are per ton of asphalt. And this approach can also then be taken in the further steps. But if I now go to the summary, you will then get the results. So here you will again see the boxes here, and the declared modules are blue. We included B1 now, but a 0. But this is not a complete EPD. But we have then here in the summary added some key data. So the CO2 emissions here, which are often sought after, they are here from A1 to A3. And then this is A4 also separately. And then there's the total energy consumption. In Norway, we refer to this as the red frame. It was actually included in the EPDs, I think before 2016, but I think it was due to our European harmonization, they had to remove it from the page 2 because it can be misinterpreted that this is more important than the other indicators. But we have also seen that since this is often sought after, this is information that could be shared in other formats. So I've seen in the international EPD system, they have this single issue EPD where they take one indicator and make a one-pager with only that particular indicator, which is also a possibility that we are working on now. And so in the summary, you can mainly review the results. You can look at your recipe once again, and it's then possible to print the PDF here or send it to your colleague to check it. And if I then print it, a PDF will be generated. So that's partly why we call it an EPD generator. So it's not just a calculation tool, it's also a tool to then print the document and also to send it to verification. So it's a kind of a document system as well. And then you can open the output. And the approach we've chosen here in Norway is to have a very static and locked format. And this is part of then the system being able to be verified also as a tool. So I now made a specific layout for this conference, so it's only a draft here, and we don't have any signatures. But then the tool says who did the job here. So Geir collected the data and I checked it, and then this will be automatic in the PDF. The modules that you declared are also automatic. And everyone is now linked to a specific asphalt company, ranging from 1 to 250. So if anyone's interested, we could also format this information a bit so you'll see that it can appear with your company's personal information. But all of these steps are mainly to avoid that you have to make a document manually and rewrite a lot of text. So quite much of the system is automatic. The material list here is automatic based on the choices made in A1.
And just to comment, Ole, this table here is showing that there is 90% aggregate within this mix and 3% fillers, additives. If it's 1 or 2 or 3, that doesn't show, but anyway, it's additives. And we have 6% bitumen in this mix. So if I can't manipulate the system to introduce less bitumen, then it will be shown here. So that has to be according to requirement in a contract. And yeah.
Yeah, that's also a key point.
Yeah, this is a summary of the job mix formula. We enter all the material into different groups. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very good comment actually, Geir, because if you then try to make an asphalt mixture without bitumen, it would be, as was said in the previous presentation, it would look good. And if you're on it considering 1 ton of asphalt, but it wouldn't be a asphalt layer that might have a lot of durability. So. So the idea here is that we actually, so yeah, David, you had a.
No, Olo, I was just saying that, you know, we are about to close. So could you possibly wrap up and give the last tips? And I mean, people can use your support. They can enter and possibly do the EPD also in their home. So you can wrap up. Maybe we can go to close.
Yeah, I think we can actually. I think we could stop there because then this is the the key output of the tool. So you can add data, you can change the available modules, and then you can print the PDF. And also when it's sent to publication, or possibly also to anyone wanting to receive the document, it's possible to send it digitally as well with the ILCD plus EPD format. So we've been working on that also this year to be able to share data more easily. And I think the next step then is also, as we talked about, the full life cycle and the remaining modules, how to approach it. So.
Ole, I have a couple of questions here that we received. Maybe we can answer them very quickly.
Yeah.
We have a couple of questions related to the primary data or the data sources. So one question says, what are the data sources used for the software? Only verified reports and EPDs? Was any primary data collected? And the other question related to this is, how did you create the database behind the tool? Is it valid only for Norway?
So I guess for primary data, just to make sure I get the definition, but so all the inputs are producer specific in the whole EPD. So the materials, transport, energy that's entered, for example, by Geir and Veidekke for a particular asphalt plant. And the background data could consist of primary data from a supplier, but it depends really on if they have available data, or also when we set up the tool, we didn't let's say have the time to find and contact all relevant suppliers to source data and make specific data. That doesn't necessarily need to be EPD, but they need to have the same indicators. And it was not possible to get that from every aggregate producer in Norway, every cellulose fiber producer. But the system is possible to update continuously, and then also add other data, and then we could use the same approach also for other countries to add data that is on a national level. And in our opinion, any type of data that would be accepted by the EPD standards would be relevant to add. So that could be from national LCA databases or made by other consultants working on LCA data sets also.
Okay. And just one very last question, very quickly. Who verifies the EPD?
So the way they have done it in Norway is that the EPD tool itself is verified, and then each user, they have to go through a training which is organized by EPD-Norway, and we do the training in the practical use of the tool. But this opens then, for this particular type of tool, then a contractor like Veidekke, they can create and internally verify their own EPDs, but they have to have company procedures, and also they have to create a checklist for each EPD that is created. And the checklist is then sent to EPD-Norway with publication. So it's mainly a check of the input data. So since the background data and the methodology doesn't really change, it's part of the other tool verification.
Okay.
And just to add that we have suggested from the Contractor Association that the third party who check the have the audit of the asphalt plant yearly can also check the input we do for energy mix and all this from each plant. So we have a third-party audit for what we use in the system, and actually it's the same as a job mix or a recipe for an asphalt mix. You have to do it correctly, and if it's less bitumen in the mix, it will be less bitumen in the EPD, and you have to, as a professional contractor, you need to do it correctly either way. So actually it's the same discussion as asphalt mix. Have you entered all you need to do it into it? So yeah. Mm-hmm. But there is an audit from a third party that we use the correct average for each plant.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Good. It's 5. I think we should close the day, this first day. I think this exercise was very good to actually see how it works, the elaboration of an EPD, because normally when you read the PCR, everything looks very confusing and complicated. And then when we have tools like this, definitely this makes things much easier for the manufacturer. So I think it's a great tool. I think that this exercise was very good also to lose a bit the fear to do it by the first time at least. And hopefully this experience can also, this kind of tools can also extend to the rest of Europe. And so it's also very, I think it's a very good practice when the PCR is elaborated at the same time that the tool, because then both things are very well connected and like made for each other. So when you do the rules, you have in mind already what is going to be in the tool, and then the tool works very well because it's completely adapted to the PCR of that country. So I think it's very good. Davide, do you have any final remark to close the day one?
Well, first of all, I would like to really thank both Geir and Ole, because there's been a fantastic display of what is now happening in Norway already from a while, and what can happen in Europe in a little while, because this is what we would like to you know, that actually could happen at European level, also for other road authorities or contractors. As a final remark, I just would like to say that maybe some terms are not clear, PCR, EPD. Again, we provided people with some tech briefs, and this definition are there, so the participant can look in that as well. And I think people have a lot to process, so we'll give them the night and the morning. And I personally would like to see everyone else, and even more people. I mean, we have more than 50% of people that actually stay there, didn't leave. And I look forward to meet all of you tomorrow, 2 p.m.
Thank you. See you tomorrow then, in time.